Virtual PD, our new exciting offering for educators. We'll be getting started in a couple of minutes, but just let us know where you're coming from in the chat box. Hey.
Oh, I'm seeing some of my Widener friends.
I love that. Park Forest, Illinois, Trenton, Chicago. I love this. Love the connections being made in the chat. Obviously, we're everywhere. Go Widener, class of 2012.
Took me a little longer. Oh, okay. A lot of Widener folks. Hey, Widener.
Another Anchorage, Alaska representing. Hannah, what time is it in Alaska, in your parts right now?
It's just past 11:30.
Austria, wow.
Someone's joining us from Austria.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, someone joining from France.
I wish it was me, Wesley. Awesome. I think we've have a good showing now that we have where everyone is, and we can go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Lincoln. I'm Advocates for Youth's Associate Director of Strategic Projects, and I'm so excited to have all of these wonderful educators from Chicago to Austria to Oklahoma to Anchorage, Philadelphia, joining us today as we debut really one of our new exciting projects called Virtual PD. As we're waiting to get started, I just want to make sure we know who's on the call. And of course, we're going to get into what the technology is, how it works. We're going to demo it for you. We're going to maybe have some volunteers on the call, some brave volunteers. And then of course, going to answer your questions as well. So make sure you stay tuned to the chat box. And we'll be taking questions, not only on the project, but also from our educators on how they experienced it. But I wanted to introduce my colleague, Emily. Emily will be managing the chat box and taking the questions, so definitely flag if you have anything for her. And I also want to introduce the other amazing people I'm very excited to join today. One is my colleague, Brittany McBride. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, how are
From
you?
New Orleans, right?
Yeah, I saw y'all in the Louisiana chat box. I'll let the y'all come out.
Yes. Brittany, will you let us know what your pronouns are, and I want to hear the most awkward kind of moment you've had in your sex ed experience, which I'm sure you can pick a couple, but let's just have one for today.
Yeah, favorite one. Hi everyone, Brittany McBride. I use she, her pronouns, and the most awkward moment teaching sex ed, I'm very strict about my boundaries. I won't talk about my sex life, and I had this really great group of fifth graders who just constantly kept asking me questions about, what I did. And they didn't know that I was pregnant the entire time. And then finally I started to show, and just like the affirmation when they saw my belly eventually, and they were like, she did it. She's done it the whole time and she wouldn't tell us. And I was just mortified because I had to just disclose. I'm like, yes, I did it. I had sex. So that's my rule.
Brittany, I feel like that was like that's like the epic like Beyonce debut when she was on the MTV, where she just turns around and there you had a little debut yourself. So yes, I have the pleasure of working with Brittany and Advocates for Youth, but we also have some amazing educators on the call today. So I want to introduce one of them, Wesley.
Hi everyone, Wesley Thomas, he, him pronouns. I am currently in the District of Columbia Public Schools, but I am originally from Philadelphia. So shout out to all of my Philly folks on the line. A funny story. Huh. I always think it's fun when I do myths and facts with high schoolers because they tell you the most outrageous things. And so one of the outrageous things that I had heard was that a way to prevent contracting an STI is to have sex in a hot tub. And so that was a great conversation about access. High schoolers accessing hot tubs. Where can you do that? With the frequency that you would want to be having sex. So yeah, it's always fun to just hear where they've gotten their information from, and you know, kind of giving them some accurate information.
Awesome, love that. And next up we have Hannah. Hannah, would you introduce yourself and let us know what one of your kind of most awkward or one of your favorite stories is from your experience teaching?
Absolutely. My name is Hannah Guzzi. I'm located in Anchorage, Alaska. My pronouns are she, her. So I mean, awkward's a weird question, right? Because I think that's just natural for the spaces that we involve ourselves in. So I often feel like that's not the right word because we put ourselves in those all the time on purpose. And I feel like a lot of us thrive in those. Mm-hmm. But I definitely think just a couple that have stuck out. When I just started teaching and I was working as an internship in Grand Rapids, Michigan for the health department there. So shout out to the Midwest people. But I was in a substance abuse treatment center. And so there was a wide range of ages from like teens all the way through people in their 50s in the same room. And so of course, like there's a lot of different experiences in that room and definitely a lot of stories. And when we had started talking about STDs and the topic of gonorrhea came up, somebody decided to start sharing like their personal story. And it was all for like, yes, listen to this. Like, she's doing a great job explaining this, but it was just like, just sharing like how real it was for them and what their experience was. So it was like one of my first like disclosures in the classroom of like, okay, how do we wrangle this in? So very interesting.
Wonderful. So excited to have Wesley and Hannah with us, and of course, Brittany from the Advocates team. But we also have a couple more friends joining us today. I think they're about to make their debut on the screen for our virtual classroom. They also love a debut, so I'll just pause a bit before they come on screen. There they are. Everyone loves an entrance. I'm just allowing them their entrance, you know? Wow. There they are, our special guest. It looks like we have Louise, Nikisha, Amy, who goes by AJ.
Thank you.
Michael, and Jordan with us today. How are you doing, guys? What did you get up to this weekend?
I'm doing really good. I've had a really good time this weekend because my brother was in town, and that usually means that we usually do like some really cool science experiments because if he's there, then I could we could really do some cool stuff.
Wow. What about other people? What's up, guys?
So that sounds like the lamest weekend ever. I'm just gonna hang out with my boyfriend, and I think we're gonna make some TikToks.
Got it. Let's make sure to be respectful of everyone in the classroom, Amy. AJ. So sorry. Yes, AJ. But I love that you're making TikToks and getting some nice time outside as we can. So I will leave you all right now. But I promise you we're going to come back and we're going to talk. I'm going to have some guests. Some of my friends come in and they're going to talk a little bit more about healthy relationships and sex ed and things like that.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes, what is your question?
Do you think that Carole Baskin killed her husband?
Wow. Honestly, a hot topic. I will say I just finished Tiger King, so I don't think I can really substantively answer. And I really want us to stay focused on the content today that we're learning, sex ed. So I'll just let you fill me in on Carole Baskin.
Well, I definitely think that she killed him.
Got it. Great to know. Thank you so much, AJ. There we go. So as you folks have experienced and maybe know, Virtual PD is a classroom where teachers and anyone can practice teaching student avatars using short scenarios. People can get support from an instructional coach so they can quickly learn and master skills that they need to be most effective as educators. Virtual PD has scenarios for upper elementary, for middle school, for high school, so teachers of all grade levels can get coaching across a wide range of topics. But I want to bring in my colleague Brittany to share a little bit more about the process.
Sure. So really, Virtual PD is simple. All you need is a laptop with a camera and a microphone, and you can join us in the virtual classroom. What we typically do before we even hop in there with our 5 fantastic high school students is we send you all a video. So you can kind of review the content ahead of time on the skill that you've selected. And then we'll send you like a 2-page document so that you can get an idea of what you want to work on and what you want to amplify and perhaps try out or change whenever you're teaching on that specific topic. So the teachers review their activity and then they join me in the virtual classroom. And they get to go in and they get to practice. And what's so fun about it is that no one gets harmed. It's a ton of fun, and you get the opportunity to truly scaffold the experience. So by the time that you're doing it for the 3rd time, you've absolutely mastered the skill. What's really special about my Virtual PD is that one of our fantastic advocates team members will be there to coach you in between your 3 sessions. And so we can talk about what went really well and what we should amplify and where we can make some changes and try and go back in and see what edits we can make to do an even better job. So really it's super simple, and we'd be excited to bring you all in the classroom today and then hopefully maybe schedule some time later.
That's wonderful. I especially love the classroom aesthetic, this like out poster in the background. I see some ferns. Love that. So today, our wonderful volunteers, Wesley and Hannah, will be getting some live practice and live coaching. And I will say, as someone who did this a couple of months ago, I think, and was absolutely dragged by the avatars about how young I look and what I was doing in their classroom teaching them sex ed in the first place. I will say a big thank you to Hannah and Wesley for offering to do this in front of everyone on this webinar. So Wesley is going to enter the high school answer difficult questions virtual classroom, and then we'll go on to Hannah after Wesley and Brittany go through some modules and some coaching. Wesley, are you ready?
As ready as I will be.
Hey, that's the answer. That's all we can do these days. I'll kick it off to you and Brittany then.
All right.
Awesome. Okay.
Hey,
Wesley.
Lincoln, this is Hannah.
Hi.
There's a couple questions in the chat box that I was hoping maybe you could answer. Somebody asked, is this going to be recorded and shared later? And then another person asked, is this a virtual classroom for coaching only or a tool that they can use with their students?
Of course. Thanks for flagging those comments, Hannah. So for the first one, yes, this recording it is being recorded right now. We can definitely share it. I'll let my colleague Emily fill me in if I'm incorrect, but I believe that we will be sending over a link to the recording to all the people who attended the session. So you should get the link and the recording. And in terms of the second question, which was, is the virtual classroom for coaching only or a tool that I can use with my own students? I believe that this is a tool for coaching only and not to be used with students. But again, I'll let my colleague Brittany correct me if that's wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. And we are happy to answer those questions. We want to get you all in this classroom so you can kind of see how it's going.
Yes.
And then maybe at the end, we can answer all the questions that you might have.
Definitely. And just to echo Brittany is that,
Awesome.
oh yeah, just to echo Brittany is that if you put your questions in the chat box, we'll collect them. Emily will be collecting them throughout the process. And at the end, we'll have a specific section for Q&A where we can answer all those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So Wesley, this is what we're heading to do today. You're going to be working with our 5 high school students, practicing the skill of answering challenging questions. So what we can ask you to do is to assume that this is not your first time in the classroom with these students. And in fact, these are questions that are left over from your anonymous question box from the previous class. So you can go into this classroom with the assumption that you've established some rapport with your students, and instead you're just going to read the 2 questions that I've provided to you as if you're pulling them out of the box. So you could read the question and then answer it. And just as a couple of logistical things, our avatars can talk amongst themselves, they can raise their hands, and they can communicate with one another. So feel free to use those tools as well. Do you have any questions for me before we get started?
No, I'm good to go.
Whenever you're ready, you're just going to say start interaction. If at any point you need to chat with me, it's pause interaction. And then when you're finished, stop interaction.
Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Let's do this. Start interaction.
Hey,
I know that was a funny joke, everybody. But I'm so glad that we were able to make it through this session. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and go to the anonymous question box and start answering some of the questions that you all left here. So the first one, it says, is it normal to not be into dating and sex? This is a great question, especially as
if you're like a dork, then yeah, I guess it's like kind of like what you're into.
Well, AJ, so, you know, as we talked about in the group agreement, even including myself, it's only one mic. I have the mic right now, but if you do have a question, you are more than welcome to raise your hand. But to get back to the question that was asked in the anonymous question box, in terms of dating and sex, it is absolutely normal to not be into it, to be into it all the time, to kind of want to do it and kind of not want to do it. It really is about where you are personally. How you doing, Lewis? Do you have a question?
Yeah, so I have like a somewhat related question. Like, am I supposed to be shaving my pubic hair? Because it seems like it would be really hard.
We can explore that a little bit later. I will say I don't know what the connection might be to shaving your pubic hair and dating and sex, but if you want to wait until after class, we can talk a little bit more about what that connection is for you.
Oh, sure. So, like, the connection basically is that, like, you know, when you're with somebody and then, like, you know, stuff that I see online, like, nobody has any hair, and I will, you know, and I just wondering if that's something I should be focusing on or not.
Oh my God, Luis, you're hysterical.
That's, you know what, that's, and that's a great question, Luis, because a lot of the information, like we talked about in our session, you're getting that from television. You may be watching adult films. I don't know. And so knowing what information you're taking in and what's accurate, what is fantasy. And so knowing that, you know, for some of the things that you consume online, you know, it is about creating the fantasy. And as we know, fantasies aren't real. And so it is important.
Like cosplay?
You know, I'm a cosplayer, so I can't talk about if that's real or not. But in terms...
No way. What do you go as? Because sometimes I usually like to go as Deadpool. What do you go as?
Oh, see, Luis, you're getting me with those good questions that I want to answer. But I have to remember we're limited on time, and I want to get to some of these question boxes. But it seems like we have a lot to talk about after this. So give me a moment.
Oh my God, Mr. Wesley, are you on IG? Because if I can find photos of you in costume, I'm just going to literally die.
How about this? If I can get through this next question, I'll come and cosplay for the next class.
Oh my God, shut up. You won't.
I promise you, if you let me finish this next question, I'm going to come in here and cosplay.
Can I put it on my TikTok?
You sure can. But you gotta let me get this next question
Okay,
out.
go.
All right, cool.
Yeah, okay, go.
All right, next question. Can you tell if someone is a virgin? It's a great question. So the short answer is no. There is no aesthetic. There is no way that someone that has sex looks or doesn't look. So, you know, I'm glad you asked this question. And also, if the point of you knowing this is to ask if someone that you're interested in has had previous sexual partners, there's definitely a way to ask that is respectful and, you know, not judgmental about if they have had sex or not. Jay, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yes, actually, Mr. Wesley, if you're going to be coming in costume, can we get extra credit if we come in costume too?
Only if you incorporate some form of contraceptive into your costume.
Oh, what? You want us to like wear condoms on our hands or something? That's gross.
Maybe. I mean, if that's what your cosplay takes you to, you can be, you know, IUD man or Depa woman. You can be whatever type of cosplay superhero you'd like to be. Yes, Nikisha.
Yes, I would like to not participate in this assignment.
Oh no, Nikisha, it is not an assignment. This is not mandatory. It seems like the students are just having a good time and want to have some extra activity. So I'm welcoming if folks want to do that, they can, but it is not mandatory for you all to participate in that regard.
I'm gonna come dressed as a dildo.
You know, AJ, we're gonna save that for another class that's not mine.
Okay, but like I don't know, I'm not gonna be dressed as a dildo for PE. I can tell you that much.
You know, well, I just know I can't have you dressed as a dildo in my class.
Hey, if I get in trouble, I'm gonna say it's for extra credit. You told me I could do it for extra credit.
AJ, I like my job and I don't want to lose it by you dressing as a dildo in my class. Any other questions before we hand this over? Michael, did you have a question?
No. I think I might come dressed as Condom Man.
Cool.
How, like Quail Man, but instead it'll be like Condom Man, and I'm gonna make it rain condoms.
Okay. Just as long as they are not from the nurse's office, because other students need those.
All right.
All right. All right. And with that, I will stop interaction.
Wesley, you are fantastic. That was unbelievable. Great job. How do you think it went?
I think it went well. I know for me, because I love young people so much, I do tend to let them go off the rails a bit. I do like the side conversations and you get to know a little bit more about the personalities, but I do know if this was time sensitive, I would have had to curtail a lot of the side chatter.
You did such a great job. I think you were exquisite at normaling the ask and making the classroom a super safe environment for all of the students to want to engage with you in a really fantastic and like genuine way. And I appreciated it. I think your classroom management skills are absolutely exquisite. And anything you can do to just amplify that fun environment, I think helps. I think using humor and the way that you use it, because it's so challenging, you did it effortlessly. Continuing to do that is a great idea. A couple of things I would suggest moving forward, especially with high school, is to think about a more student-centered approach when answering the questions so that there's less pressure on you and it allows them to practice those critical thinking skills. And then you can also use it as a way to kind of engage with a couple of your quieter students as well. So asking the question and then turning it back to them, well, class, what do you all think about that? And so then it allows them that ability to kind of develop their own values and have those conversations and think out loud in that safe room that you've provided. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for checking in at the very end to ensure that everyone had their questions answered and that there wasn't any other clarification that was needed. It was just absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
Yes. Michael said he was going to make it rain condoms. I died. That was such a great job, Wesley. And as you know, normally you would go through another demo again after Brittany just gave you those tips and recommendations. But we'll skip that part for now for timing wise. But maybe I'll just ask you, I know Brittany asked you like how it felt, but like how did this whole scenario feel and how did it differ from maybe your normal PD? Or I guess the PD you might be getting if we were in person?
Right. So I will say what I appreciate about this platform is that I feel like the students are as realistic as they can be without being like downright disrespectful. And so it is great. Like, you know, AJ is always my favorite because she holds no punches and she does not have any problems disrupting the class, railroading the conversation, making it about her. And those are the students that we normally call like the squeaky wheel. So we're going to pay a lot of attention to them. So I appreciate having someone like her in the classroom because it helps for you to remember that you have to be engaging all the students in multiple learning. So yeah, how it felt was just, it feels organic and authentic.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for doing it in front of 300 of your closest friends live. Really appreciate it. And just a couple of notes. Again, if you're just now joining us, we'll be taking questions at the end. I'm seeing a lot of questions about the back end and logistics. I will say there's some secret sauce to it. And just like Burger King or McDonald's, we will not be sharing some of those secret ingredients. But to answer one of the questions I saw is that there are a number of scenarios, number of different backgrounds, number of different environments that Brittany and our team can go through later on in kind of a case-by-case basis. But now I want to show you a little bit more about kind of the diversity of options for virtual PD. So we're going to show you a second coaching session, this time with high school students and a trauma-informed approach. And I will give it over to Brittany and our lovely Hannah as well to get that interaction going.
Awesome. Thanks, Lincoln. And thanks, Hannah, for volunteering today. We're excited to show a second skill here on how to incorporate trauma-informed approaches to sex education. And Hannah is just brilliant at this, so I'm excited for you all to get in and see this work as we do it. So a couple of things, Hannah, before you go into the classroom. As you saw, your activity today is a agree, disagree activity where you're going to read a statement to your students, your 5 high school students here, and ask them if they agree to raise their hand, and if they disagree to keep their hand down. And so you're going to work through those 2 statements, keeping in mind all of the trauma-informed approaches that we gave you prior to today's session. So do you have any questions for me?
Nope, I think I'm ready.
Awesome. And just a quick question, what do your students typically call you?
Hannah's great.
All right, Hannah, whenever you're ready, it's just start interaction. And when you're all done, it's stop interaction. So whenever you're ready, start interaction.
Awesome. Start interaction. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you again. I'm so glad to be back here. And we're talking about relationships today. How's everyone doing? Louise.
I'm doing really, really great. My mom made bacon this morning, and whenever she makes bacon, I always have a really good day. And is that a new gray shirt? Because I don't think I've seen you wear that gray shirt before.
Oh, it is new. Thank you for noticing that, Louise. I appreciate that. Well, it sounds like you had a great breakfast. Oh, AJ, it's so great. I'm glad you're back today. I'm looking forward to kind of jumping into some things today. How is the rest of the class doing?
Actually, I'm feeling pretty great today.
Awesome, Jay. That's great to hear. Well, great. So before we jump back into class today, I wanted to kind of go over some of the group agreements that we came up with last class. Can anyone remember what we had on the list? What were some of the things?
Oh, yes.
Louise, yes.
Basically, the one person can speak at a time. So if for example, like if I'm talking right now, someone else should not.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great one. Absolutely. What are some other ones that came up on our list?
You should respect what other people have to say.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. That's a really big one. I often like to highlight this one because we're all coming into the space with different values, different backgrounds and experiences. And so what we know is that sometimes we're going to disagree with people, and that's totally okay, but we're going to make sure that we're respectful when those things come up. So thank you for highlighting that one, Michael. That's great. Awesome. So those are some of the big ones. So I just want to make sure that those are at the forefront of our brains as we jump into this activity for today. All right.
What's our activity today,
we're going to
Hannah?
I'm so glad you asked. We're going to talk about that right now. But before I get into that, I just kind of want to talk about, we are discussing relationship abuse today. And so I know that that can bring up a lot of different feelings for different people. So please make sure, again, just kind of back to our group agreements, that you're doing whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. If anyone needs to take a break or step out, that's totally fine. So just know that we want you to feel good in this space as we jump into this activity. And so without further ado, let's talk about it. What are we going to be doing today? we're going to start out with an activity on relationship abuse. And so I'm going to read off 2 true or false statements. And if you think this statement is true, I would like you to go ahead and raise your hand. If you think the statement is false, you can go ahead and keep your hand down. Are there any questions about the instructions? Okay.
I think it's really
Looks
great
like
that
we're
we're
ready.
talking about this because there was like this one girl and she used to live on my block, but she doesn't live on my block anymore. And I think like her uncle did something to her, but like she didn't want to tell anybody because she thought that like her dad would like kill her.
Louise, I'm so sorry to hear that. I definitely think that, you know, that's a reason why we want to start talking about these things, is that often relationship abuse can be really common. So let's start that conversation, and hopefully we can come up with some things today and talk about that. Thanks for bringing that to light. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our first statement. Relationship abuse never happens among same-sex couples. If you think this is true, please raise your hand. If you think it's false, go ahead and leave your hand. Okay. So no one raised their hand. Would someone like to share why they think this statement is false?
Well, actually, I can explain this.
Jay, go ahead.
So, relationship abuse, or any abuse for that matter, does not, I repeat, does not have a gender. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jay. That is very true. We know that relationship abuse can happen to anybody, regardless of what gender they identify with or who they are. That's great.
Okay, I have a
Would
question.
anyone else like to add to that? Yeah, AJ.
Okay, so like, isn't like the statistics or whatever that like girls get like beat up more often, like Rihanna?
Thanks for bringing that up. I think that's something that kind of pops up around this conversation, where we kind of think of, you know, people who identify as male could be stronger, and maybe that could influence people's thought of what abuse is. And truthfully, there are so many different kinds of abuse. There could be emotional abuse, financial abuse, where somebody maybe has control over the money and the power in the relationship. You know, there can be abuse in digital ways of just people wanting to control other people's passwords or what they're posting on social media. Reproductive control, so maybe somebody making the choices about what kinds of contraceptives can be used or what kinds of protection people use, right? So we have all these different kinds of kind of breaking down that relationship abuse, and anyone can really experience that or be a perpetrator of that. I'm so glad you brought that up. Nikisha.
That's crazy. Yes. How can someone be abusive with money?
Thank you for asking that clarifying question, Nikisha. I appreciate that. So sometimes what financial abuse could be is if somebody is in a relationship and only one person has control over the finances, or maybe doesn't allow the other person access to that money. So maybe somebody doesn't feel like they can be on their own to make purchases, or have control or advocacy in their own money. That was a great question.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so like when I'm in the drive-through and like I want to get like a McFlurry, but my boyfriend is like, no, I'm not going to pay. He's like telling me I can't have it, and he's like using money to control what I'm going to eat.
Thanks for bringing that up. So it sounds like you're talking about a very specific scenario.
Yeah, it
you're at a
happens all the
drive-through
time.
with
I'm
your
like,
partner.
give me my McFlurry. Like if it works, give it to me. You never know when the ice cream machine is not going to work at McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for bringing this to light. I think that's important to try to identify, like, when is it a relationship abuse and when is it just people in relationships trying to figure things out? And I think when we talk about this overarching idea of financial abuse, it really comes down to, does somebody have control over their own money, and can they make their own decisions to spend their own money?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have my own money. I just wanted him to buy it for me, so that makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah, great point, AJ. Thank you. Okay. let's go ahead and get started with the second statement. So, both people in a relationship are generally at fault for the abuse. If somebody thinks this is true, please raise their hand. If they think it's false, they can keep their hand down. Okay, so we have some people maybe debating what they're thinking. Awesome. Okay. Would anyone like to share why someone might think this statement is true?
Well, like, I know I raised my hand and Keisha never really speaks up. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk and tell you that, like, there's a lot of, like, chicks out there that will, like, know it's a bad relationship and, like, they get hit or whatever. And then, like, they just, like, go back to them. I mean, like, Rihanna basically wrote, like, hit songs about it and she just kept going back for more. So really, it's like, whose fault is that?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Would anyone like to speak to that before I answer?
Actually, I would like to speak to that, but I am not about to play this dangerous game of ignorance with AJ.
Excuse me, but I am not Rihanna last time I checked. I'm just telling you what goes on in the world. So sorry that you don't care.
All right, so I think this is kind of one of those situations where we talked about where we have very differing opinions, and that's okay, but I want to kind of circle back to those group agreements and make sure we're being respectful to each other. We want to make sure that we're having discourse and sharing all these things that are happening in life, but we want to do it in a very respectful way. Does anyone want to speak to that statement, maybe why they, let's talk about maybe, would someone like to share why they think it's false?
Oh, yeah.
Louise?
Yeah, so basically, you know, if you're like in an abusive relationship, that is something that is really, really bad, AJ. And like, I don't really know because like I've never really been in a relationship, so like I can't really speak on it. But I'm just saying that like I don't think it could be two people's fault if only one person is getting hurt.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think some of these situations are so challenging. And oftentimes when people are in relationships, when we were talking all about those different kinds of abuse, like reproductive and financial and emotional and physical, a lot of those things are about power and control in the relationship. And so people might not feel like they can leave that relationship or might not feel comfortable, right? And so oftentimes it's so easy for us when we're looking in to say, oh, why are people in these relationships and why are they leaving? But it's often hard to make those decisions. And it's, you know, those people are in those really difficult situations. Michael, I saw you raising your hand. Did you have a question or do you want to share?
Yeah, kind of. So, like, I know that, like, I'm supposed to, you know, wait for the girl to say yes or whatever, but what am I supposed to do when, like, they might say no, but, like, they're still, like, really flirty and stuff? Like, I don't really, like, you know, it's just tough sometimes to, like, read the signals because, like, they're all different.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking this question, Michael. This is so great. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because I think it gets into that conversation about consent. And I know we're going to be talking about this next class, which I'm very excited to jump into, but I think it's really important that when we're talking about consent, there's so many different things that we're looking at and trying to figure out if things are happening, right? I like to use the acronym FRIES. So we want to talk about consent being freely given, right? That person is not being coerced and they feel comfortable giving consent. They're also, I think with time right now, I'm recognizing that we're probably going down this road that's probably going to cut us to the end of class. So I will talk about the whole definition of FRIES next time, but I think to break it down, I just want to talk about today, Michael, that we're looking at nonverbal cues and then also those verbal yeses and nos, right? And so checking in with partners, but if they're saying no and they're still being flirty, then we need to make sure that we're getting that verbal enthusiastic yes as well, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up. It's looking like we're almost at time, so are there any final questions before we close out the class for today? Awesome. Thank you all very much. It was great to hang out with you all today and learn about relationship abuse. I just want to take a moment and recognize that a lot of things came up today. So if everyone wants to take a deep breath and let it all out, and just please make sure you do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself after this class. And with that, I will see you all next week. Stop interaction.
Hannah,
Okay.
that was fantastic. Wow, look at the chat box. You did such an absolutely fantastic job. Thank you. I just wanted to highlight some of the amazing things that you did. I love that you revisited the group agreements and like had the students kind of run through them to set that expectation from the very beginning. Your trigger warning was absolutely perfect. And then I loved how you used affirming language throughout all of your communication with the students. So great job with that. A couple of things, if we could go back in the room, that I would suggest trying next time is announcing that you are a mandatory reporter and what that means exactly for students, so that they have a clear understanding of if they disclose what the response might be. And then really, I'm just like picking apart here, but making the connections to who can provide some support afterward. I love that you suggested, you know, we're going to talk about some tough things, maybe going through with the students of like, is it the counselor? Who is that trusted adult that you can go out and reach out to after the class in case they do need some additional support? I really just think you did a fantastic job. I love how you shut down the comments that were getting a little bit more focused on who was talking as opposed to the content. And you reconnected all of the personal stories and the experiences back to what you were focusing on in the lesson. So absolutely fantastic job. Y'all are amazing.
Wow. Yes, great job. So thank you to Wesley and Hannah, our wonderful volunteers today. So as you can see, and as you all know, teaching sex education is not easy sometimes, but Advocates for Youth hopes that with virtual profession development and with practice and coaching and really specialize these scenarios, that you can get through it and make sure young people have the important and accurate information they need to protect their lives and futures. So what I'm wondering is if anyone in the audience who A, has a webcam on right now, and B, has a microphone, would be interested in volunteering, just like Wesley and Hannah did, for a session right here before we all say goodbye. I will note that as I've seen questions in the chat box, this is virtual PD does cost, and that's on a case-by-case basis, and you can reach out. We'll give you the details after. So this will be a free session for you to take right now. So if you are interested in doing volunteering right now, please put the letter B in the chat box, and I will have my colleague Emily pick one randomly.
Well, I'm going to pick the first one to jump in here, who was Aramis. We're not going to follow the Jeopardy rules, even though Aramis is the buzzer. I'm going to find them right now and unmute them. Hold on. And I hope I got that pronunciation correct. You can correct me now because you are unmuted. Say hello, Aramis.
Can you hear me? Can
yes.
you hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Aramis. Now I can see and hear you. Hi, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for picking me.
Of course. Can you share where you're coming from, your pronouns?
Okay, so my name is Aramis Collins. I work for a non-for-profit agency called Martha's Health and Wellness. I'm a prevention specialist where I go into the schools, and I'm from a south suburb right outside of Chicago, Illinois. So I'm from South Holland, but I'm excited to be here. This webinar tops all the ones that I've been attending for so long.
You're making us blush, Aramis. You're making us blush. I love that. Perfect. Okay, so Aramis, are you ready to do the session? I'm going to hand it over to Brittany, who will walk you through the steps, and then it'll be all on you. Awesome.
Hi,
I believe you're muted right now.
Uh-oh.
It's all right, I got her. got unmuted.
Okay, did it unmute me? Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, Aramis. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring you into our high school classroom. We're going to have our 5 same students.
Okay.
And we're going to go back to answering challenging questions. So you can pretend like you have some leftover questions from the anonymous question box. I just chatted those to you, but I can just share them as well. So you have 2 questions left over from the previous class. The first one is, what is a boner? And the second question is, how old were you when you first had sex? So you can, you can imagine that you've already established a rapport with these students.
Okay.
And whenever you're ready, all you're going to do is say start interaction.
Okay.
If you ever need to step out and chat with me, just say pause interaction. And then when you're done, simply say stop interaction.
Okay, no problem.
What questions do you have for me?
No, I guess I'm just going to jump right in because I know working realistically within the classroom with students, you never know what they're going to throw you. So hopefully I'm able to follow suit with Hannah and Wesley and let everybody keep a good thumbs up and not let anybody down today. So I'm all about
you got it. You'll be great.
We believe in you. You got this.
Thank
so
you.
Just a couple of things. The avatars can't get up and walk around, so keep that in mind. They can raise their hands and they can talk with amongst one another. So feel free to do that. And then my final question to you is, what do your students typically call you?
They call me Aramis, but it can be Miss Collins if the avatars, if that makes it simple, or Miss A.
So, whichever you prefer. We can go with Miss A.
We can do Miss A. Okay.
Awesome, Miss A. Whenever you're ready, it's just going to be start interaction.
Okay. All right, start interaction. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? It's good to see all your beautiful faces again.
Oh, what's up, Miss A? Did you do something different with your hair?
Yeah, it's been raining a lot lately, so I didn't get a chance to go and get my hair done, but I hope you guys just excuse the scarf today.
I know, right? Like, isn't it supposed to be summer already? Like, I'm over it.
I feel you. You never know what to expect with Mother Nature. So how's everybody else weekend going? What did we do anything special? Exciting?
But I played a lot of Fortnite this weekend.
All right, Luis. I've never got a chance to do Fortnite, but you'll have to tell me more about that after class. Anybody else want to share before I jump into today's curriculum? No? Okay, so who remembers what we talked about last time?
We were talking about sex and STDs.
Exactly. Great job, Luis. Does anybody have any questions about anything we covered?
Yeah, like, what's like the most common one?
The most common one, it just depends. So it could be chlamydia, it could be gonorrhea, it could be trichomonas. You never know.
What?
Trick. So it's trichomonas is kind of the most hard to spell STD that I think there is, because you always miss an M, an A, or an O. But
I'm not trying to spell it. I'm just trying to not get it. Gross.
Understandable. That's why we have to always keep ourselves knowledgeable about the current STDs that are around, as well as just being protected and using condoms, right? Or to be abstinent.
Yeah, but like no one's gonna do that, so.
Yeah, but it's always a good thing to know. So for future reference, how to protect yourself, right?
I swear to God, AJ, can you just let the woman teach?
What? We're just having a conversation.
Yeah, no problem. Say AJ, Jay, I truly appreciate you both for giving me your points of view on things, but no problem. So let's jump right into it. Any other questions? No? Okay. So I know we're going into the question box and I see to pull a question about what's a boner. That is a funny one. So, you know, we have a very open classroom. So does anybody want to give me their thoughts on what they think it is before I give you the correct answer?
Oh yeah, I got it.
Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, so a boner is like a hard dick.
Okay, so we use the proper term would be an erected penis, correct? You remember teaching you the proper terminology for things?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's the proper term you want to use, because a lot of people may not know the phrase that you use, AJ. And we want to always be able to kind of level our minds up on an adult level, right? It's all about
Yeah, I
leveling up
guess.
and
Like,
learning.
I mean, if you're going into high school and you still don't know what a boner is, like, I feel so sorry for you.
Okay. Well, appreciate you, AJ. Any questions? So the next question, I see that we have here somebody asked what was the age that losing virginity. Do you think it's a certain age where it should be where you should or should not lose your virginity? Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. What age did you lose your virginity?
Well, you know that I'm always been an open and honest person with you all. It's never a right or wrong answer, but I don't want to disclose what age I lost my virginity. But I would have to say that just making sure that if you are at that stage of thinking about or interested in venturing off to lose your virginity or engage in sexual activity, it's important that you know that you're physically, mentally, and emotionally ready, because you have to know what can possibly happen after engaging in sexual activity. Keisha, you got a question?
Yes. What is the phrase popping a cherry?
So popping a cherry is when a young lady loses her virginity, and it includes a slight little bit of blood that can possibly break the hymen inside a female. 1 second, okay, Jay? I got you. I'm checking you out. Give me 1 second to finish answering Keisha's question. So that's when a young lady loses her virginity, which is called also on the classroom level. A lot of times I know youth say popping the cherry. Any other questions before I go to Jay? Okay, Jay, what's your question, Jordan?
Actually, Miss A, can we please get with 2020 and get rid of the little girl and the gender personification with virginity, which really, FYI, is just a social construct. Thanks.
Okay, well, Jordan, we have to be, what's one of our household rules, that we have to always be respectful of others and their viewpoints, because although you may be at a certain level of sexual health, not everyone else is. And it's certain things that you guys may say that I don't know about, and vice versa. So we're all here to learn as one. So let's be respectful.
But you're the one that's saying it. You're the one who's saying girl, virginity, blah, blah, blah. Just say a person. A person loses their virginity. It's not that hard.
I understand. So excuse me for saying that. A person. We'll just say person or people, individuals, and not use any phrases for male or female. Got you, Jay. I appreciate you for sharing. Any other questions before we close out for the day?
It's like getting intense.
Sometimes the world will get intense. You just have to be able to kind of venture back right and cover what we need to cover, right? So that's life. You never know what to expect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you all for sharing today, being so great. And I'll see you guys next week. And you have a great weekend, okay?
Okay, bye, Miss A.
Bye. Have a good one.
Stop interaction.
Wow. On the spot, incredible. What an icon.
Thank you. That was fun.
You were absolutely brilliant, Miss A. Thank you so much. I loved how engaging you were with the students. You were genuinely interested in trying to connect with them, and it read across the screen. It was very authentic. And I love that you asked them to recall what they learned from the previous class, to kind of just check in. What do you all remember? Where are some things I might need to clear up some misconceptions? So that was brilliant. I found you to be unshockable, which is great. It's something I aspire to be, because I show everything on my face, and you just rolled with it. Like nothing was throwing you off, and that is just a gift. So, you know, waiting on the TED Talk for that, because you were absolutely wonderful with it. And I also really appreciated that you acknowledged your misstep there, and then pulled yourself back a little bit, like really took yourself and showed that you were human, you two were learning, and that this was truly like a symbiotic relationship between the students and the teachers, and that you both had something to offer there. You did an absolutely fantastic job. Thank you
so much.
Love that. Thank you so much for volunteering and being up for it, and obviously crushing it. So thank you to our volunteers and Wesley and Hannah. We're going to wrap up a bit, give you some more information about this amazing new platform that we have to offer, as well as answer your questions that you put in the chat. So first off is that we have 16 different skills that you can practice, as well as non-school settings like a healthcare provider office, a school counselor's office, and different backgrounds that you can use to really make sure you're getting your virtual professional development on. Brittany, can you tell folks how they can sign up for a virtual professional development session?
Yes, it's very easy to sign up. It's just sending an email, and I'm going to drop that email address into the chat box here, but it's just Nora, N-O-R-A, @advocatesforyouth.org, and we will get back with you and ask you all of the important questions like which topics you want to cover, which grade band, and then that's where we get a lot of those details about whatever's happening specifically in your area so that we can make it personalized to your educators so that it has a larger impact.
Definitely. I also just put a link into the page of our virtual PD on Advocates for Youth's website. That has all the information we went over today, the different grade levels, and as our president Deb Hauser mentioned in the chat, we are offering elementary, middle, and high school classes as well. So you can click that link to find more information. And as Brittany said, Nora is the one that you would email to get started on your virtual PD journey. Some other final things is now questions. Emily, do we have a couple of questions to answer from the chat box?
Yes. First of all, wow, I'm not okay. My heart is still racing from Aramis's session. I need a nap. But so there were two questions that, some questions we were able to answer in chat, and others I wanted to see if Brittany could answer, or if not, then we'll reach out after with our sort of deeper look into it. So the first question is, what do we mean when we say trauma-informed?
So yeah, great question. So a part of the thing is when you pick a skill, we have 16 skills. We have elementary, middle, and high school grade bands. We even have non-classroom settings. We can do meetings with parents. We can do something in a healthcare setting. For us, we want to make sure that you get like a very baseline understanding of what we mean when we say trauma-informed approaches. So for us, that includes 6 principles that we send out to you prior to your session, and a video link that's about 7 minutes long that kind of goes into a deeper dive as to what are some of the strategies you can use and then practice and get better at in order to provide a safer, more affirming classroom space for all students, and then also be able to respond to trauma when it is presented in the classroom setting in a way that makes students feel and know that they are absolutely supported.
Great, thank you. And then the next question was about when educators themselves use racialized and gendered responses, and if sort of addressing those is part of the coaching.
Yeah, a lot of that does come out when we're doing the coaching, and a lot of the times when folks want to schedule my virtual PD, they will reach out to us ahead of time and kind of let us know, like maybe there's something happening specifically in your school that may have come up recently. We can make sure that we're including that kind of content so that folks are being challenged on the things that are very much present and as to what's happening in their classroom spaces. So the more you communicate with us as to what's going on, the more we can be responsive in the virtual classroom, and they can practice in a space where, you know, no one is harmed, teachers nor students.
And that's actually, I think those are the questions that we have for now. My internet has been coming in and out a little bit, but if you did have some questions that we can answer, please email me back when we send out the follow-up.
Awesome, yeah, thank you so much. And then a couple of other things is that we are so excited to release Virtual PD and have this amazing product out there for educators. You can also find out a lot more about Advocates for Youth and all the things that we're coming up with this month for Sex Ed for All, as well as next month for Pride, and some new launches and some cool things coming out. So make sure you follow us on Instagram at Advocates for Youth, and on Twitter at Advocates Tweets. You can see it on the screen right now, as well as our website. I'm checking the chat box one more time for any last minute questions. Yes, so for all those questions around individual coaching or availability for districts and things like that, that will be a kind of a case-by-case basis. So I really implore you to reach out to Nora, whose email is on the link that we attached as well. You'll get it in the follow-up email with the recording, as well as cost. So I think that's about it from my end. Emily, are we good? Awesome, so you'll get the recording. Thanks so much for joining us, for spending your time with us today. Really look forward to it. Advocates for Youth, we do kind of probably 1 or 2 webinars a week at this point now, so definitely follow us and stay tuned as we come out with new resources and more offerings. But big thank you to everyone who joined, and to Wesley and Hannah and Brittany and Aramis. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.